sil moraro kuila del tira ukmos del magre lang el caso es lo ka amlidiul metial radio ma television emrong el al sil lo ngem luror ke mar seguid el Ngirmang Rengiil program regid rabek lo ngem luror sel milisi sel melten maklisi del mo mdngli abluat qablemente regid e top daul de Udesuall girel mal marung el al sil se Irene del program regid el gidam dengel was ngaringi omelil traskur belaul melekra belau ngaringi ngal kan gedel motob dara ngara kindergarten el mol mutra tainga
alway selling omelil tawngil tokoy
wai se tirgal terul redil ngartianga atugo bets lo que argidra len gidam dengel was sel de bora school es el gotlo lo pong ra school el kida marsado lo mesa ngalget motob derngi a daingak college university se voltob de tumgula se tamla utmokla omsu bro le lakla ta magror mesel voltob de mera avalua del metalurgi del mutmokrti al balua del mrurngil mo ngil bulu ya Michael Monday ma Michael terlemal ma tukoil ngara alsel arngal kita mo maskulir mo sumo makwa dio dobot bagia time lagi ngal esara Irene se temala ar kamamara ar mam segim top da segim botol top del mer skur orior eto ase ka sen top da moram da la rail isngek lo mesraplim eu achei nguangrad aklem nguangrad adrablim persig del time gatuab del mom mawa askun maloms el mekut makliad del aklem para adrablim para bibir kau para taman mongit
melang seo melang seo
seigi de elasel gumesringi itirgal terule kebil ngartianga ngaringi Ayana Rengiil el gidam danglil waseng mle timle tuargile mo sokora tenis lo pangkela dalal atoni general Ernestine Rengiil el ngara tenis engilo aklogora tenis lumul rangas el mo o mangayung adra ngal kra kwam Pacific el mora time ra top da high school la STA e direk dia dil lulla ka kol tamar mala ay kel ngugodra ta tenis di regel mol raskulel ra skura spadong el 4.0 mlengar baba e mor ko wa a scholarship lo yak seikit el mor askuram digel e di regel de marar baba sa class ngi e mor ko em la tuobta el mo o engineer gasail el kamokra a skular ngal gedam lang mai leng mringl no marangudel no el megi miltigerni el tingi was kame bukto ko ta drinks of the swim isem el morangal ko pelar el time el kita temela graduation o melil mengkal buk ngartel kadik ma lo bengela Irene adi aku tengli kateng ketinggal mam tengli to sengal kerengat pang emro ngaligela o olek ka el ngaligela amler da beilo silek ngaligel emro emra skur ngat pange e kureng selwaseng direkel di mela ko ngat pangal mora abetania el antilop da pisisira last week
le valedictorian
magumes ringi mal jago de masarung mi akim lo sigerni mal tigerni mal ngal tengah tem los edel mei nga Cecilia Andrew meng adi regel kemeul lo reng se o mes ngul masa la amal medengel wa sia dardil e tol tagara da ok lem ngat mok rabit em ngat mok rang leget em ngat mok rawret en kanga waise bi lo ngal ngat mok ra aklel ma bi ma ngaligel euror
super young lady
egaras cool dia kasar mal bringle Irene
why say
mengal marungudel lo el welcome ra kami mertial program mak malolingit kami malda bom roy de orengs ikaw pom do se Irene ako lang do se kumis kami kom tedera dila ka imolsa oo ito ka top student tra college ada belau dir dila de kasal
May say, diaktir kay kita dira kalungin laran dil am tengel wasengkal Ngirmang Moses Uludong kaya kat father Ramiti Arbelaw. Well, ang Cecilia Andrew nga kultal mitringi maktira kalmal mga sulel kulang at aturingi oling itringi ang lerel altutaw. Yang kal Ayana anisara nga kabakmal at ang mga kamleplo oil sira kukwa ak ngara school ang wase erungal ka mesa Ernest tinan mal ko to kulo sa tiging nga lataman matalal pura school po mo Ernest tinan mal ko to mangmal mamirkaman ni role model al diplo ol pe oklal kire kalul tirakla
Emlo adralla
seman le sola ta makakporingi mo mal Dios pera mamirkaw ek role model ala kal grace no eng Ernestine rungal makmal lungi la rungo kalwase kamla mamre ka school tire ka lopel talmud tel merabel wam el moringate al guksab ela il al sengar ka ol pelur bela man mo uspe
dia ka pumisir ka claim ra Ernest kale Ayana Adam hal ko ay sing direk mal adal aku mal me nga karkaw ako father side ring okay madal way se me ako lingite kora klore dil klora Ayana ka tubas ka aulan ka dim tilgil ko amo so tukur bela kasi kadil kaul ko at gim lidi kau gataang milkarang ela kangartia
Mentira kal kurang nila mo ay sulwase kamla el larker mo karo larker kamla larker elementary kay kel high school ara PCC lektira kal mal menang asulira rumes sa Udesuall el altuta Ngirmang aling ngaringel arma kay karel at tira mal role model silire kal morar magyakarel at believe it or not, ang nga ka elementary school o mes at Udesuall o met 6th grade, 8th grade morbap mang kumal masaul mle may kora ako take over
Okay, malungil tutaw ang Clara Cecilia Andrew nga ka originally ngal garayap FSM mlara ngatpang elementary school 12 dara 2000 gore move on almara 1999 move on almara Betania High School 12 dara 2003 and then from there akmara school ra PIU selta memle PIU Pacific Island Bible College nga rakwam gore el alta memla chancel mo Pacific Island University. And then in dimlak finishing yel mutel merbelaw mila baby online classes and then I give up and segi then badak ngara school merel at time for like 15-16 years. Serak ngarak pamelmay akmlo west Momre muda Kobrora West, Momra Surang for 10 years. And then other PCC offer a year, so I move on to PCC. And then nakara PCC, ito ba ay encourage ang kasem lutal mga class, and then naklilutal mo continue.
Kumilkara kuruan belum sangat amla kelas aku close.
Ayel classes serang sel program makmlarngi el CPH Community and Public Health at temela di kapsingi mangmles of egal manager ngi engar ngi yel baby at temel during lunch time like 12 to 1 malubang 11 to 1 mangmles of egal manager ngi
Mengeraba bir kau lang degree kau.
AA
Rang.
CPH, Community and Public Health.
Wow, interesting. Keluar akto yang malu. Kau tebur kau anak kam lakto pada klemera news mak ketemu dengan kau dikatakan lagu ngal kerja lu dengan kau ada kam tinggi bawa semua tahun.
Malungil tutaw ang Clara Ayana Rengiil ay I went to school at SDA Elementary School from 2nd to 8th grade. When I was promoted, I attended Palau High School.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
I didn't go to PMA. My mom wanted me to experience the side of Palau that, I was traveling since I was about 9 years old. I took my first solo flight when I was 10, and so I traveled quite a bit, and she wanted me to kind of experience what it's like to be with, school with people who spoke Palau, and so I would be able to understand more. And even though I'm not as good as I would like to be in speaking Palau, then I got to experience, it's a lot better at Palau High School. I was able to graduate Palau High School with my 4.0 GPA as one of the valedictorians of my class. And I received a full tennis scholarship to play at Alabama A&M University. I chose to be an electrical engineering major with a concentration in computer engineering. And last month, I graduated at the top of my class, not just the electrical engineering major, but within the College of Engineering, Technology, and Physical Sciences. Physics, mathematics, everything. I was the top student.
How many students were in your class?
Roughly, there was about 600 graduates from
Wow.
So I was lucky enough, blessed to, not pay for school. It was about $120,000 scholarship over the course of 4 years. And I was able to complete that. I was captain of the tennis team by the time I graduated. I kept my 4.0, and now I'm able to come back home.
But tell me, why did you travel at the age of 10? I mean,
I traveled for the first time. It's actually quite a funny story. I was 10 years old, and I wanted to play more tennis outside internationally. And so that first tournament, I went to New Caledonia. And my mom didn't tell me that they didn't speak English in New Caledonia.
yeah,
They speak French.
French.
And so, I was a little 10-year-old. There was a rule amongst the players that parents are not allowed to come. So even though my mom was my coach, she couldn't come with me. So I traveled by myself from, I think it was Palau, Guam, maybe Korea, and then to New Caledonia. And I was there
10 years old?
10 years old by myself. Yeah. But you pick up a lot of things. You have to learn not to be shy to ask questions, especially, I was lost in the Korean airport about 3 hours before I realized, I need to talk to somebody, otherwise I'm going to miss my flight.
Wow. So at that time, your mom has already achieved that in terms of regional tennis.
Yes.
Your mom is tennis player and gold medalist.
Yes,
Huh?
yeah.
So at that time, so you actually follow your mom's sport career.
Absolutely.
But why engineering? Who are you following?
Myself. I think I wanted to be an engineer. I think it started when I was at SDA. I had a very good computer teacher. He was Filipino. And he was the only teacher who really challenged me. Every time I completed something, he would give me something else. Just pick my brain. And I like that concept because I think it's something that's lacking here in Palau. When you complete something, then that's it. And you just sit down and you relax and you go home and that's it. But every day I came into the classroom and he challenged me. Here, Ayana, here's something else that you can do. Even if my classmates weren't doing it.
What grade was that?
I was in 5th or 6th grade.
Impressionable age.
And so that kind of carried on. I was thinking computer science because, I was doing a lot of that in class. And then I thought about it and I thought to myself, how can I think about this when we have energy problems, electrical problems? If there's no power, then how can I even think about doing, computer science? So I kind of shifted my focus. I said, okay, electrical engineering is really broad. I can be working on power systems. I can be working coding. And so that's where I eventually ended up at school.
Yeah. Kami Cecilia ukti korkaw kamil kara engil titil ay gidel el kamo ko util as ol mamalaringi. Why?
Nga sera poco resistere gu lasemel vasengral mature agire kalmorngi eknora OA. And then nga kadak maluror al sel obisel af. Mang sige del compassion nga kalgot luswak lang sirar af. Ako saying labay sabi ko ng CPH, and through that and sabi ko lang self af in whatever areas in their lives they need help, in physically, mentally, emotionally.
Kam telgibus mo di tel CPA. Ngaral luror. What do you do? You work with your hands, with your mouth, with your head, or what?
Community and public health. Sa dorang sing maseng hospital, ding it's a public health. Makaradol lo sig vasetyal rakteng milgradub, and then especially sa hidal de prevent rar mendakabol sa retyal rakt.
Melam bulgula se let's say sum kamoror til aikit. Ngara lobis rebela kamoror ngara hospital alu se em gukti ngara state alu se em gukti ngara bulu de.
Honor hospital, dental, behavioral health, tel primary health, dal ngar tel bitara koror, communicable disease ngar tel ariyo. I get away they fall under a public health. It's about the health of the public.
Di la kamo ngel was el time til ay gida kotel klol mondar vela el sil sa ser. Aser to gunian odal. Magam sa ikal kam sa tel klol mondar tel mring ser ablul adan namil pandemic magitel lodro krada dal mora huliping mamora Taiwan pal klol mondar el sil. Nasung asbed kita ada belal angara 12-13,000 ada ngar bela. Ilasab edel was ik da angar erul telal adas mer. Allo marm odel. Telgibul klol lo urm. Bela sugum go ise la kedir ko uror PCC.
Oy.
Meng elag ko makarar el ang emol taw tertil ay gidel. El duul blamgu. Malu ka som mut malmol maras ka school mo a bachelor salu bugdi.
So kalmut malmol mga bachelor's degree ngag, and then
kami kuker kaula sing ela esa deal esa mother kamagarar el ang no sab emel tumulang alem lo ungrarangal mabiin makaliw maplay euro PCC ngara school mo ako til ngarbabal tenung ko ra school
malungil question, and then okay man challenge
Tu ren?
ngire dal mo diligente plakarnguth.
Hindi ka kulo ay sa ka pure ka adra blulap.
Yes.
Emang ela kamle merodel merbelaw. Le eta mama adra belaw mo. Masira mdete largi memera ngat pa.
Kamle 4th grade.
4th grade. Wow. Okay.
Ngirmang hale bokta litel ko niya sa silak tiregal mal prouder ka community and public health. Diregal madengel wase kamlet jakal laureor mother ma akora disher el video wase nga mal encourage tiregal ro kuil dir soril mo finish a school year lek mal madangali til aigid ang aligexel ngo master degree el asel sal mal mo ngarpa bangarela kas hello nga ka lumakat ora business nga karo era pa kula pa piyera ka late sa mapom talgibul mo tulod daw ay mang amraring imal diakal makngit tato reor the struggle, you know, the difference between tirigel successful mar adal diakal successful Tirigel successful, tirigel fail, get up, test themselves الموت. tirigel di try, di give up, edil mood. Mantil ay kita do reng arkaw mal no matter what kama asang ara tulungal kamangarang hindi ka dim loro gira skule makmal amatar kaw makmal. Kudos to you, congratulations. Aktiragalo ko swakalo ay satiale tirgal dilia Dr. Robert Amais. Ngirmang el ara pelur bela mal soala Dr. Amais lo maklat kalwase. Health before wealth. Kada gira dal mo karigi kartial health dargid. Era di dom daswa udo.
Okay. Akmalas masusok rabitan masu edel. Ayana. Aku mesra ka di malgoto ko ram digel. Yak tilur ka ulos ang game goto ko belan di ko madangel waseng skula ul maulagron baka maliliwek ra ablul ad mang ngirem mo goto ka digel mang it's okay. Mo lingtra Irene ko mo sel ko samurai sa tiabira tingeme. Di kami huk tabora tiagil tabora klon. Ela ko se kan me 9 years old ngai tuar kim emo tennis. Kari ang lagi kali Argil, lagi lang lagi el stat mo lo tennis lo adalah mas sensitif. Anyway, kamu ais lo se ela se mo tennis ako tengrari law mo tiaklong malamol malangaringi throughout high school malamol mo o malangu ko dara ikal competition mal ikal play ngadra tennis around the Micronesia.
It's a good question. Of course, it all started off with my mom. You know, my mom wanted me to do something that was not available to her when she was younger. I don't know if you knew this, but my grandfather never allowed her to play tennis while she was here because tennis was not a sport for girls.
Oh, but you know, your grandfather was one of the first Palawans I saw play and good tennis player.
Hindi kami to say. Ngkal ayana o ay sulwase ulmong man lo swallow tennis ra dirgal 9 years old dong ko lemes ra Ngirmang waseng mal moret sel atra tennis lo matangalia story waseng kal Ngirmang mararingi at mal atim lakal swala lo tennis.
Leng Raul.
Lengal karadil ang
at tennis at klokoli ngal karadil.
Yakran pak man ne moret slow tennis lenga kangal ke o mesertir ang gorselem lenga rabitara PDC le tennis court akran para kakmal le regular say gid makmal remember akmal ge mang badelo lumarang karuba kalwaser dila takal kiri low tennis
nga dire nga da bul alo mebel bul tingil was ang franchise nga kamil karamo o tennis
basi kita kuksmi aro ka naman mirakaleng sometimes at mundia kal sa BM selto dia kal sa BM ka pay mal maawa sa hale po probable was sa BM
ding interesting sel ako ngali story ra Ngirmang ali sel time ke attorney general o ngata ko betul attorney general euror a single mother. And yet, el accommodate ra ngligel ka ko tenem nga training ringil ngigel bekel sils ngara practice bring sel suma ada mama am reder gara training man bring. So tell us how many like tournament you participate in the Micronesia area Pacific and what kind of prizes you got or awards you got, you know.
I was
high school,
during high school it was a little bit different. I started playing international tournaments. So I actually, when I graduated from high school, I was ranked in the world in the under 18 division. I think the highest I got was 713 in the world. Of course, I wore the flag of Palau, always represented Palau.
And where did you play? Where?
I played in New Zealand, Australia, Thailand, Hawaii, Guam, Fiji, New Caledonia.
In the Micronesian region, just our Guam and Saipan. What did you get any awards?
Yes, I think my first win was when I was 10 or 11 years old. I was the champion for the North Pacific, which is Palau, Guam, Saipan, and FSM. I was a champion for that. In 2010, for the first time, there was an under 12 age group for the Pacific Oceania Championships. Micronesia, Melanesia, Polynesia, all the top players came. And at 10 years old, I was the first champion of the 12 and under division. And I got that title, I think, one more time some years later. But usually I was ranked either 1 or 2 in Micronesia.
Wow. And you know, your mom was your mom was a champion, gold medalist in Micronesia and also in the region. Eh?
Yes.
So I mean, that must have was in your mind.
Oh yes, absolutely. She won her gold medal in Pohnpei. I don't remember what year. And then some years later, in 2013, it was Micronesian Games in Pohnpei, and I got the gold medal just like she did some years prior.
Hindi ako tayo din mo torbelar maasal akmal maral ilwase haya tel tenis ng madel hindi so akapalo tingin maas maruba kalo reng sulwasengkal ayana diregal waya dalal lang oigi del ngutel balur belao ngun moratap para tokoy rat tenis. Mang ka 10 years older sir omwa first medal international. Mal lungil tokoy makmal so akalpalo tingin adal wase arang alikel vela waingia mal morets.
So as you know, sport training, that's the most important thing once.
Yes.
So tell me, like, what did you do that made you, win tournaments around the Pacific and, I mean,
I think it was just determination, sheer will. I didn't want to be, that's just Ayana from Palau. I wanted everyone to know where Palau was on the map. And even though they didn't know my name, I wanted them to know that's the flag. If you see that flag and you're playing against that flag, it's going to be a tough match.
So you must have prepared a lot, like in terms of, can you just tell us, like, especially if kids are watching you,
Sure.
if, what kind of training is required? Like how many hours you practice, or is it every day or every 2 or 3 days? And what happens if you're lazy or stuff
Sure.
like that?
I mean, Auntie knows when I was younger, I didn't have a life. All I did was wake up. I went to school. When I was in elementary school, I went to SDA. And then right when that bell rang, then my mom was outside already, and we went to PPR. From about 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I went home and I studied. And then I just did the same thing Monday through Friday. I went to church on Saturday. After the sunset, maybe I played on Saturday night. Sunday, I played the whole day. And that's all I did from 2nd to 8th grade. Then when I went into high school, I received a scholarship to train at a training center in Fiji. And so, there it was even more rigorous. We trained 3 times a day.
In Fiji?
In Fiji. I trained from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the morning. The kids went to school. I rested for a bit. I did my schoolwork with Palau High School. Then I trained again from maybe 10 to 12. I came back home, I ate lunch, and then I trained again from about 3 to 5 or 6.
Oh my gosh, for how long?
It was 2 years.
Wow.
Marangaligal bela Lorenz wasengkal ayana dimle ngongerul school mol mutra ongeyal school sa patong mal dingara school mo mongos makambalang yatala melotigir el morat tenis court tra PPR nga ka mal matangalile kulo mesringiran kay kanel maral me clo eng maral yang practice every day. Maray ka lesya sa bato, kukmukap singing usokol, santeng usokol. Mal sa baira nga ko bela smuba, ikal tokorak loko lulwaisi. Disciplined, ikay malungil training.
And yet you were able to study enough to attain, 4.0 in high school.
Yes.
Labay ro liabre ng irmang mal mo pakarurt. Letter ka, low so let exercise. Tiyak dam asalo babagi kra ng ligat waset mo overweight, let obesity o mo la pek patingela se marak tam. Dira kal koraungil matirkal terum lele elang kaswa maklokol mo ko ringira tennis mangka adrahel matiak malungil maral mebol loreng sarngal kel bela wase mal close to tele hel dira kal sports mal ngosutrira ngal kal maungir ra school.
I see. Bela anang ko mes lo se la ka kamlak to ra school me o mesra abulul bela da magara lang at ko ra sports kal am dengel wa se mitut at ko ra high school level nga mal lomrang lo sa high school se ya time ra ro la ko mal gire del developer ngi ligirel active nga kam school aruk el 4 years kamamangal kabela paklokora basket magitap magibora kayakyu idim la tennis sel time ligi train ra bekel weekend ma bekel sis after school ginga high school 14 mo 18 ngara major league raruk etap bala every year agi me maklol tutlela sport elang magara elang buk swim magara ruli sports mo sisira high school level bela umisa malmitu.
I think my opinion of this is discipline and focus and determination. With me, I had no choice. It was my mom or I don't go home. So it was a little bit, I don't have a, A or B. I just had A. And I know it's different for kids nowadays. I had friends, but I wasn't going out, and I think it's a little bit difficult for them to choose between having fun now and working hard so that you can have fun later. Because that's your return on investment. If you work hard now, my kind of training, it was worth $120,000, and I didn't pay for school. But I think the students, high school students, I think they need to be more willing to do something they have never done before. Training hard, staying afterwards, stretching, watching what they eat. Are you going to sleep when you go home, or are you on Facebook, Instagram? And then you stay up late and then you don't go to sleep. You have 5 hours of sleep, and then you want to train as if you had 8 hours of sleep. It's not possible. Your body knows that it's not at full power. And I think that's the sacrifice that you have to make if you want to be really good at sports or anything for that matter.
Yang Ngirmang kal plan tutu ayanak tiri kilometers rangal high school maral tokoy. Ang maral kiri rangal school mo mutu make a decision so wase akak angeng al suko mga kukar atrabliri dati kalsal loldu partir ang kiril mo mutu ultitil loldu partir. Luase ngakak mo ngila liwe kamak mo sabekal mo ngara school mo mereke mo practice at torak lokol leng amraningi makita rungo teleng beto karangal karbelaul atrabliri ra kuktia kal atrak lokol leng Ngirmang mantia kalo ndiak segi luase ka mo practice mang alsuko ma discipline el tokor bela maring la toliu teringileng se oda kiara la tu reng ma mang alsuko mar atrabli langal ka kuktia kal atrak loko le tia ka seigi tertir yang maral kire lol melulu ol ngaser tirgal ka matumamutu ul titir luase el angak mom iwai emekis after 8 hours man sab ekal tial tulu ka ngilom daswe ngil om ngalekal tia tikuli masota ko nga chocolate ngarang mamosab il atrak loko
Bela hala tumul mura adil ngariang lagel kam bukti sudi de Cecilia was ela kangal gilang lagem
16
wow tlai sel malodical age anyway say gid ela kamlam ro Rengiil 16 years sal kam bukti spedid was ang makarar elang kutukut maklia ulo ro ma osisat mas school may kal sa elangal kal me 16 years old gilkmok en kalam dengel was ya dal ngaringal ngarngira matukara makitel kara may kagidil kay kagidil masidli masang buarang legit e diregel mal madengel was ngarngi sen mal koram kitar mo dingil tukol dilu para last week kara turi meder kil sal gilapsi mga gumes relang ang taraklo problem relang relang arngal kal el tim ngasang sang ka o malu tumo amli marom e ospaga tilgibul serious problem maklo dan kuksel kim bukmam relam sel kumda sosya kim ogron moralmente nakalwaise giman le sel tukuram rigel discipline kadabal do tilgel girem gisa tuta e magarang e ngani ngaurere magarale memora school me dia ka aldi milil mal di milil di Sunday mo kay iglesia ka milil malu la di 30 minutes after school milil dia sal sab edel oy ila ka magarare la sige da kam sige da perspective regale kalsukum kam lo valedictorian na ay gang you must know something
Agumda silwaseng kira parents mal maklo involvement tertir mora life rangal ko. From day one al more seblabo sebelangal kan tingin din still en kira ta din balbal dia benterir.
Ela kami alam dengel was ya ngaringi sil term na to am digel was it takes a village to raise a child, you know. Kita tengo dengar sa kamadangay hindi kita ada bela sel gi moro ang ramo sa sel temam engkal ngalagay madya kadil ngalagay kadil kal ngalagay tial balo men se era sukuma ada o mesrangal kam lang ari tamali eng stobri ol badi misi sukum ko ngararay le tra tamba tigal isel o mera bla mal da se enol tutak ra mama se katay le bada kaleng bayo muto ol bada kamil garam kam ale malu e kad moto pokil di bla lu se sande gi mom lu momrek eng ya moringi omla ngel village chief amla ar kama mai ka mori ang royal sukum ngaria ade ba mir or malu ben tu amlo dibus malu ben mal ka mir amlo di bus malaat ing mo bara ta meror kata mo oklem alebe ya se dika mel albo algo pesel blula kata namra en mol mal di adma patangel ku ela kata magrar ela oi se gidre ela alwase la diga sas bedel waseng mal di ida ma dil ni tuta aruba ka ma asamoro angal ka mora school ngara sebel guk mokra angara al mora aikal institution aikal idel mora school al mora al debe el mora kabelmental mo ngara rati ay gidel kuk tugora amangat mokra ra hal karngas akaktil giba ela waya ro school malu ngara program sel damrula program mo school ma mrula angara after school ma
Na by la governmental step in help sa programs sa sports marangal kara school sel after school at mong malubang kora a retreat study hall ngarang klel masab era ngal sel after school at morning em ngira parents tir after work mo mre
ela gomes en botto kay kagitele abay makora ko ba kaminti sentera ikal belul pe almost black belul belar ela nga bilit sa dingan ya bari malun ko ka center ngrang edi ba aw ako sigida igel o el tismo ya program after school de gomes sa school of course arangal ka ngara al sel o di sel talto ba school Oy, e dire che Ayana kalam tinggal was sel dome sa school bela ngari blagtak ngari ke school mas successful of course at school aklali da STA ma Maristela marwa emaw sa ko hindi alam hindi buk sa public school for example ay ko elementary sila top ang mo Munes ang mo Oheris sila mo ay kal school ra ba ikal state to belang wise. Kung sa mga school ikal sila successful. Irene Olkeriil sa belo ay sa ngarang esar eh. Ngul makarado olbido esar ga skuru esar ate mama o mama amle tap rebelaw. Hindi ela ko misingi ko klamongo let na mo oras kura mulgo
Man baral tokolol ko ngirmang letel skuru esara 60s, 70s, 80s. Ang maral ble gampay mula ko era patokol states yal bela. Beloil tamal ko itiray tan klol atol wasya gingar ongos masel langas asil se akot ang beloy arti. Hindi akora mo malat ka sa igidral tembe kal ngar elementary emlari omsubulo mga usub omsubul alitak lma klol o mayusul kabe kala mangiro ko moldi mukra sport sa yakyu ma angarang klel maktire kal mal lguk mo tiraklisel lol ko niya Cecilia Ngirmang Moses parents of Ngirmang involved. Lelang kal Ayana dire kal mal example ra talalam la involved. Dimla ka nga kadire kal mal bring latiging nga karang alike kam sabel nga ra London nga kangar pela etik. Etio ultiura tengway. Mang why say Ngirmang are parents involved Ngirmang. At least one parent. At least one parent lengal ka auspe ersel wase tita ito okay mami siyang newil arangal ka auspe ersel say kidal ko ra check kidal ro ko ildim langal kam ko tambatingel wase hindi akal sabi amal kuktiro lahat ko tial brain ka tira ka fully developed emotingel was tiyak malungil kaplo gel was tiyan diungil la teacher angal ka malaus pera one figure raklangar ratir parent at least one parent say kita check
sila ka parent kahalit ko ngari observation na lagi ngari ang lagi ngaraskura STA elementary school ngari kaya kinder mga second grade takkel tada adrir ending piratama molker dati yak absorber sel tirkel molker tarangal ka malu mo pick up tir adio musin dili idil idia karsal ngania sa ngania la tun tril kumes til sal all mo sel takpo hindi ko sing la tan namalak lalu ng kalbil adi question nga kasing gura this is common wain karela ng adil of course single mother tiara lang ay gidal aman ngel wasing buk syukang regim sel may nga adil mardil ongra rarangal mamrula kal yang ramse murakal o yaruba ka kongra ra otoy me ngara muso atkora buhay ma outside di lang tial bulu am lamongo di mlamo sisiwa us askelaudo dar dilma mabibira time tiang kaul adin na through tiang malkul ko lol experience ka saksi datap ngwarang girar sa albuk po o soy seperti yang sa to kam skida oldas mas aloreng seleng direk
ababong ya Cecilia lubo Ayana
ang Ngirmang ka father of the family Ngirmang tiraklo involvement tir mortial family tir. This is the all time ang kadim sin del mothers because fathers are always busy. But hindi mal marangi ya father ang Ngirmang klo involvement tingil and they're the head of the family.
especially Marsal.
Especially Marsal.
Hindi ka mo sa angal kuk timla ka father tekeringin ka gitu kuk man na successful kuk tilgim na mo imisar patokol adam. Why say? Ela ka amdengel wasa mama engineer electrical engineer kamle follow ngil tel mle ko ra madal ka ul ko miska tiagi dal au ngil obor ngi alu ben ko maldim level the swim.
Absolutely not. No, this was my own idea. I found out that he wasn't. I didn't even know until I told him that I wanted to be electrical, and he told me he wanted me to be mechanical, and I said no. I'm going to Maybe it's your footsteps, but I will make my own path, and then I'll meet you on the other side.
Tirgal ko lang lihat malaya ng Senator Regis Agitaya. Yato mama tirgal one of my favorite senators. Akmaloldo Bartial Building Code.
Oh, I see. Oh, hindi ako mong say lang interesting lang maral kita Blue Bella is going through change. Mal sila gim gigera 50s, ma 60s, ma 70s moral me dimla ka amre edel mongod aplul waitia. Biku kiding ngarang esal ngakirel bluma mai ka ngasi ko beskur ora gidime sel samme la gimo. And you don't know, you don't deal with anybody. Ku mal di ada sel bluma klaw. Mal a klo tutler elanga Udesuall tiagid tigagid ngalgid tuoba de. Mamo soldado mamo askurela. Mela cuestión elanga was kautia lo wais lo se como la sainga contrato mo urora con Baliam Rigel. Lo tirak tiagid skublam ui tirgel a igel con Baliam Rigel mo kan tam Rigel o mes tirgel tapra ada toda da ngage mo ko malarti. Agriga wase ngrau ul makangal karbelao motap tergi del mong kautel masao sel banderang se omesi som ngulo se el agam ato betel mal ngarba school ba mal ungil il kamogra omsu mal dos pering me dia comer belao e moram rigel.
That's a really good question. And I'll be honest with you, I had a little bit of I don't know how to say it, a conflict within myself. Because when I was younger, I always talked about the people who never came back. Oh, you got your degree? And where are you? But this is what went through my mind as I graduated. I was the top of my class in engineering, electrical engineering. And I was offered jobs, not just from any companies. I had 3 offers. One was from the federal government to work at a federal utilities corporation. The other one was a Forbes Fortune 200 power company that was based out of Florida. And the one that I signed with is a subsidiary company of a $18 billion company.
What's the name?
Coke Industries is the umbrella. Underneath that is Molex is what I work for. And so I thought to myself, okay, I can go out, can continue working with these people, or I can come home. So this is what I was thinking. If I went back right now, I only have a bachelor's, which is good. You know, I graduated, I did well in school, and that's great. But if I go back home, where do I start? Am I going to be a manager? No. I'll start at the bottom, which is fine. But I think that I want to be more experienced. I want to work at these companies who grew from 0 to $18 billion in revenue. And I want to see how they did that. The job that I signed with, I'm creating the things that go inside here. The chips.
Great.
That's my work, is designing the chips that go into phones, into pacemakers, into cars, GPS. I'll be making the chips for those.
Wow. El ay gidi Ayana, Ngirmang ay gidi kalsab el marura belaw. Melat ya kita bay ko konti kal wase kad makarang Ngirmang ya kita el gukngar ay gidi el trual el tirigel marred el podosi ka el tuule le dolay kay gidi el ay kang Forbes ma Fortune companies el bay el mer belaw manang liget sel mel sab el top dra school el boring ya urel at terringi ela leberbela start at the baro men man manal maring larong ultial school el maktulul loru la chips el baragal dengwa hindi akarbela well ay gidil kumbali.
And of course, one of the attraction is the pay.
I mean, for me, I guess the way I was raised, you know, my mom always said, the pay is nice, but enjoy what you're doing. You know, I have friends who now make so much money, but they're not happy, and that's not what I want. I want to be doing something I enjoy.
Yes.
How much in the neighborhood of starting salary for this kind of work?
For this kind of work, 65 to 85,000.
Wow.
Yeah, fang. Ulmang maral kira talo laaway kay kitil kumpali may investor pelaw. Ang masab irang alkarbela ngari already 65,000 ra year lo mo.
Oh, I see.
Ngari koler ang irma.
Kamo.
Ali color ka nga ra air.
Oy, malungit tutaw na korang Ngirmang kau maailin maayana mangilali imurangal. Ngirmang ako rin sa kamsa na 1960. Ilwasi kami wala ang SRM lo. Malmle wow ble mungil ya education kami usel time. Ang ulo kom deng wila education kami usel time ay mali ka ulo pa kabelment. A education na wala po ang amna alfel. Ma MOC ang malingil ako ang suuna ulo pa. O mura health marwa minor marwa tulbat yang government. Tiagi ratara ger gureng sigi ko ger ayana nga angkor gir al ayana. Aku reng serga ko ger ni luasing ngaram ko to dra school mo ulo American. Din mga kumbas na mo time tirgal nga olbi arulia la marngal dra school mo to dra school American. Le mervelau. Siya wol lesel do Mr. Alsis Abis ang American, nila all de galera mo interview ni. Uleo ko lang arvelaw. Manggiren mo lala ruasi, at sugum ka tuwa dala, abay nga ka American, berbela osper kau. Kaya maldi kami ternage, kamol-mol mo kumsulak.
Oy.
Malmasaw la.
Kahalik imurato ko black ubes ring mga halik ko guger ka ana. Sero nga college 4 years ra Alabama. Wang ra gil ka ti mo as gil tournament. Of course kam nas scholarship ra tennis mga girem lo skola tennis nga competition. Telal dai nga kam na kusklam digel na competition ringi wang ra aku schooling ko ngila award ikang
Yes, okay. Thank you for the question. I was attending Alabama A&M University. We are part of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. In total, there are 9 universities within our region. They span across Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. Those are usually the schools that we play against.
And do you have like annual tournament like NCAA type,
Yes. So we have our off season, which is usually in the fall. Training, maybe there's historically black college and universities championships. So we participate in that since my school is a historically black college founded by a former slave.
Wow.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And then in our season, it's the same as any other NCAA. We have our kind of round robin. We play all the schools. Then we take the top 6 out of the 9, and we have our playoffs, which end the championship is around April.
Did your school ever make it to championship?
Yes, we've made it. I think every year since I was a freshman. I think we didn't make it my freshman year, but sophomore through senior, we made it to the championships. This year, the women's team, we made it to the semifinals before we fell, and the boys were the champions of our region.
Wow. So your school is,
Yes.
in terms of tennis.
Yes, very strong.
Wow.
But I don't see their names in basketball and baseball.
No, not usually because we're Division 1 NCAA, but our campus is quite small. I'd say about maybe 12,000 students maybe. So it's not on the caliber of say Stanford or UCLA.
Dil ay kita pa yung school ang guktiakal salmal maklom.
Right.
Yung tirgal, akaw kam tirgal tennis champions tirgal twins, the 2 black girls,
Yeah.
Serena Williams and
Venus.
and Venus. Hindi ako tingalwasan ko kanal school al blaring il tire kandi they are actually tirga internationally total well known tennis. Tiragal mal happy wasa ka mention wasa it's a black university mal well to do. Lenga ka I love Maya Angelou. Tiragal ngarngiar waya Maya Angelou lo mil aliang alake they still work hard.
Ngilanta, good poet.
He's more than a poet. Mal mla to poetry for the presidents ma tartirgele the mal wise humans. La Maya Angelou ma Eckhart Tolle ra Germany tirgal akmla amoy wa tol book sa tiril mal
Dirang malu sa hong.
Dirang
malu. Kamu ay sa Lorenz lo sa ngarap poem tor melaw.
Ola itnger.
Dia.
Lo ola itnger.
Elang lasep edel wasa poema dalang malu ngigil wala itngira la ngara
Proverbs, okay.
Ding oy.
A poema.
Dalang lal ngigil oy.
Dalang lal.
Ma way la sols elang adiregel ngara poem leng. Ngoran slow litak maganding hari igil do subul ngara.
Ang ngungil makadula sols lela kami makikarel adamang sol sa kotol mo global goal ako meses long sol sa raat katko radio to swak rong sil mo mreke way kaya to reng cycle to ko ra alsel mararing ya sol ulak mo tangyak tiregal malapalawan orthography class Che Watanabe sincere ka mamra PCC Magimusubay kel mal maklol tokor belaw yak namo matengel wasegal asol sa maral makloy kel bulgulay kel tokor alsel
message
mal maklo bulgul gay dal Maya Angelou dire kal mal tara role model rapotokal adal dire kal mal matu arngul
bela kamo aisra kamilterol radil el antemela omelil graduation ngara ku kami atilo da school el ang as egel ngartiang o ay sa belau rokir ma ada belau la se el 2021 kami atap belau o mes katap prada inga kargit makamla amriken la dirga ngal ger belau el kisang ruli ablar tol ngara scholarship ra tenis e molo o sogora tenis ram amrikele o album imro to tapra class ngi tamla so suar ada kombali amrikele digil tap kombali amrikele unusual nakatelgil ko ra historian e ulak adra news emlo sak I know kulma sebela mlu selgira I can last 50 years so I kind of my memory bank I can mal unusual makaw ako tendi amras la trebela kerro del merbelau emo kong emo otil emo all the place on earth emo ra ngat pang ta ko tel garel bulur ngat pang dito asen klo omrelel mol mora skura betania PCC unusual asbegal mal malo ay sir kami lo reng sam kaul ngartia Irene wase malungilan nguguleng mal it's something edilu per elal graduation time makmal matengel wasa rather bela amalo amal ko amo ko didan ri lop ko ril kinelo or momento que me teru raikal blam ru nga malo marangal wase kira other bela kita tunggu bes dilek ra aruba emre te tial blo gerel blu ka mal makasai itia di ko ra dim ra sila pacific blu indi ko mesen ko angari ha angar ledra ablulat aseng kita atko raklat ma dali dalla ma shuga ma klebela urkit na ku kire dal ko do the seal sengger kita rumah la ku gede dal ku tulil ko atu besel at lo the seal mortial ablul admar adal da
Tiragal mal amater tilterong ngirmang le tirgang au represent taigel tablol ko tel maklo tuteler el al time el al 2021 kamiul ngalgel bela mal tiago tulungil tokoel abela ke karbus el balu masel polo tange balul adal wase abela independent balul ngarinya ngal Rengiil melo masarandir matu arandir ngungil to ko ngirmang etira represent taigal maklo tu talel to ko rahel ma technology melang kal marula chips sa cellphone electrical engineer ma other community and public health ay ga igel maral maklo tu talel to ko those pe other belar elal tay makmalulgi talo sa kada supporter tir supporter ko ngal belal soril guk ngaray kay gidil ito ko ilang atoira health matoira technology electrical while I get it to maral those pere timer belaling we're in the midst of economic development el kada mal ngar borderline el kida el marula ungil decisions el wase either kada maral sustainable lungil al uba kada di mo ay gal gorabat togol el kuklam tamal el balul di marawar adaling remembering health before wealth, say here.
Kadam mga simmer makmo elakla akmo mas kami ako ramring elker. Dekom ak bulu ay sa kami luas sira kim kekaret. Kasi kamo mas rabli me. Kasi kamo narkel me wa ra pulim mai kang ito betul mong wadu ma school me kut makli. Ela gida abulur bela kadangara dia klorak trablul ata pandemic kamamal la klol adlo mesa sedel base kadam la hitrabarom arol lagi sar gidam leungil mon lagi dam na emran momring adalang ok mendire kemal mongot mengaria igil ku esel mon time la tu ngire dre elal lo meso se kada magarang ela kami am la top dra school lang ma angarba belte ma unge agil kamo kol mal dos pe ngara ul dos fiur gel tial bulu ela angara sel aikal suobel plam subi ela ka tial aikal tial peluadra ela ngara das se kada kadungura gel area kami ul raseng kada magarang Bukau. You just want pelan. Iku ngaria aplam accomplish ringira ku sisak ma umsu mela makarang. Mo mesaykel mondar git.
Sabilu era le borse di tungung kalwan el kole.
Cabo, bolo ise. Cabo
Ali color ngara air.
Oi maluil tutau. Le gora kami ngara air ma station ma adlo rens. Mal mosmi anu sel mosao to moringi ay kel kwara to bela ngi makora asoka mo sel sel ewal dura klobak makmo o sel ko am katki sel ngara betelehem se o mesi sel gira bilio ngari gel ewal le la bambu asoka mo sel se bo mo sel ngi sekto se i yang ek mi ahwe ora mo tuli lo ngel kel la soles matianga sel ewal dura klobak bela makmo selsigo akloba kawaya ewalduy el dia galgi dariro selmo ome le gamla rabambu el me motakrablu medsi akloba kalmor ewalduy otur kabuku iyang huey mal motor ka buku lai ka dia kali amarang lekil kamera blue am lokma ke kode belji morang tru otur ka buku iyang huey ira sela ay waldurak akroba karbela sulang
Ako raklangal tangaton mara Ayana Cecilia kadamal congratulator til letamle graduator el arrakal top of their class
ela ko tianga malngot indirga katalo do bertial program ela udamre ke ya to da social wise hala diku aisra sel wase ngel mil sol se ela ta actual do has nothing to do with aikal da durela ding belau kita ada belau menggel mil ngesol sa ada ngau Yung may amatangel wasa blur nga ura lel belaw. Mesta alat mi kai kel mora uwabal me mengdamal se history English di history kita mal ngaltat. Dik matangel was engge la dire kel mungsol sa sila matangel was engka dire kel olel. Le ngo bugula ta balangka. Dia kamal masaw leral kora ko gisa Udesuall se gidre langa sel ko ta klot tu tele se kleba laurki. Kid ka wata itial berbuat nama karar, itu mau melasku, mau ror, mau gerogul, mau kertiar, erulitial berbuat, elmor mal, akmal mereka suli urtial.
Mali ka mo uri self mal ngarpa pel kompali inting mal dia ka mo best self lal asal si angkol wasa pelawa mal ngarang meu dia kal reida. Akmal gitu kemil sekadim biskida Udesuall pada smritial wasam maraigil ko kosnge mara ko tel blam reli tel skulem Michael no denge kana utme maka ra masing ra selo senge bertial bulu to move forward ngara ko sel el ko commission ngil wasing kut maklid giril gat magil mal mo Udesuall el que lo mesing ngil bertial bulu dan mutel morba
El asel ko Udesuall algire la health arbelau. Tiga logro la public health the hospital tiga lu semring logro. Yeah. So it really takes the community to cooperate with them. Masuko mundup away gagi for example la COVID. Iga nga best digam na do. So tiga nga digam subo. Instead of the atora hospital wasa gagi tigire the rule. Ngira adra blue will cooperate with Bilabot derir all tirak like el dolgoy.
I see. Okay. El atrigel kuk away kami utel school blamngum trigel kuk mutu ra away kaya role la tabera wa ser marada smer mom mulio kita la atrigel klotu tlele. Especially trigel kuk di bedri den ra abliri trigel garigel am trigel baby ra case na modia kara adri mo hospital esta na hospital. Balu malgiam la motivus. I see. Kam kuk skida Udesuall me ana wa sports wasin maguk tel auror engineering.
Sure. In terms of sports, it's a difficult time to travel and to play, to compete, but it's the perfect time to train. I don't know what everyone else has going on, but it seems like there's a lot of free time now. There's no traveling, going outside, and, vacation. But Belao Games is coming up. It's the perfect time. Your friends are now free. Why don't you guys, go and train amongst yourself? Iron sharpens iron. And, it's better to train in a group than, by yourself. It's always a lot harder. In terms of engineering, I'm not quite sure where we are in that field right now. But I think what I'll say in terms of the professional fields, I think now with the pandemic, no one knows what the right answer is. And so our people who are in leadership positions, just do what you think is best. And, people have elected you there, and so people will support you in your decisions. And it's okay to not know how to do it. I've lived in America for about 4 years. I've lived there during the pandemic, and no one knew what they were doing. And I was living in Alabama. It was one of the last states to close. Well, I was there last summer. It might have been the last state to close because people wouldn't take things seriously. During the pandemic, and then cases started rising, and people still didn't listen. So I think it's important that as citizens we do our due diligence. You have elected your officials there, and now it's your time to, just do your part. And they're leaders. They will lead us to, to move forward.
Kami di translate talgib sa lulukor niya Cecilia Andrew tokor bela Ngirmang. So young people, I'm going to say it in English. when the public health people, their work is it's not easy. And this COVID thing is brand new. So what she mentioned is when the public health people put out a directive or some regulations for the public to follow, the community to follow, to prevent us from the spread of these diseases, please adhere to those regulations and be respectful and follow what they say. And then at tial kuklulo ko rin nga Ayana to ko sports. Ang maral to ko yung irmang andia ka basta-basta ko nga raskogi. Mang kamil magkakarel adal rin nga siya Ayana. Elang nga mal perfect time. Was in perfect time for training. Elang yung time ilgok pomda ke emla mo mara ka schooling irmang mang mal al summer dia ka ngaral mo rule pomda ke mo sokola sports. Practice, train, al basketball, tennis, swimming, ngiro kuy, lang mal to ko rahel, malungil mo supering.
Let me just ask you one question. I don't know whether you know it or not, but in Palau we have over 20 lawyers. And Palau lawyers. We also have over 20 doctors. Palau doctors. We have less than 10 engineers. And engineers are so important, especially for project and the things done that we need to develop this place. So I think in PPUC has 2, and then public work director is 1, and then I think only Kioni is the only one private. So altogether, the engineers, I think Steve, from Angam, Sword. So
Nick Sword.
Nick Sword. So how do we get more Palauans to be engineers? What's the kind of tips you can give? Because I'm sure, especially if kids or those who are graduating, listening to us, and listening to you, it can motivate them because we definitely need.
Ngaras of ML advice Rengiil mo rin magkakarel adal ko Mr. Gitarel alwase ngaras selguk mo inspired ti selrulatrin mo to ko mo sorry le korail ay gital skura engineering.
Sure, that's a very good question. Thank you. Being an engineer is hard, and especially you're dealing with in terms of construction, for example, which is what Palau kind of needs right now. We're going to have tourists later on. We need engineers. You need to be devoted to your studies. This is not I will memorize this, but I will not understand it, and that's impossible to do as an engineer because there will always be a new problem. A problem from tomorrow that you have no idea about today. And so if you're kind of thinking of career options and you're thinking about engineering is science, it's math, but it's also creativity. It's your ability to adapt. Exactly. Innovation. You need to approach the problem not just from the front, but from the sides, from the back, and look at it from different kinds of perspectives. I enjoy being an engineer because most of my classmates were foreigners, Nigerians, Qatar. We had Americans too. But I like being an engineer because someone will always have a different perspective, and which is why I like being in the States, because then I've never seen it like that before, and I think right now that's something that Palau needs, and unfortunately I'm one of the few right now, which is I completely understand people saying how come you're not coming back. That's perfectly reasonable to ask that kind of question. But as I look at myself, I'm not ready. And I'm not ready to come here and fix everything by myself. I need more experience. And the only way I see that is if I can go abroad and, understand how it works in the States, how it works in Canada, how it works in Japan, Taiwan. And it's not like I'm not coming back because my home is always here. And so I think that's something that young people need to think about, and it's not always money. It's not always money. Engineers make money But if you're being an engineer to make money, then that's not the right approach. Because then you start budgeting differently. Different materials. Oh yeah, it looks good on the outside, and then on the inside,
I see.
And I think that's something that kids need to think about. It's not just the looks. It's about how it's actually structured, how you designed it, and will this building be here, 100 years from now, and it's still the same. So.
Masata na rong sir, Ngirmang atang Ngirmang alwa sir engineer sa solve up problems. Mandi ka dil to raw daw ang kakita Ayana alwa seng Ngirmang devote at Ngirmang sel hindi ka sa ilaw lela tu ay gel swab ra school. Ngirmang marul sel tu sen sel waset tiam katmok la eginem almaskar o ngarang Ngirmang lo tirak la gigit mo ngaringi rapteri ra wase tosi kay rokuil al to ulel al suko mangaring problem al suko mangaring tokoil talamal tosi kay rokuil al to ulel wasaseng makarangal kat makli.
Cecilia kasalo moral da talen direk melgol waseng taraul mo interest tagi del filter ngi am lengaras elementary school ya senserngil adra ulit pinga kora dirli mo interest ngi mengkau ngara ka oro rasku selu tangar ba school be la PCC ngariang lagi kadam garar el ange ruli segi del umna sang agro kul kongel wase ruli ngal mang mos mariar wai tial tokora legida kumese gida adar belao ikamam segin nga school min mal tok gida ngara social science political science business hindi mal makasaya ngara wa math biology science o engagi del waseng require ngia siga engineering kad magara si del ngara elementary school mera high school level up to high so either mula swap subject or activities rangal kung mo sabihin mo interest ra misal mel bol bat mo masculine mo at least kulkuringa si mosuel mo togar engineers nga telo ay sing may mal togar tokta togar adrala indi engineers amal makasay ikida maluspe kam kora miskita ko kultus Miguel say
I'm sure I got high school sa laboratories ang sige dalal ko niya Ayana sel accomplish awan daw and then I sensering ko sa imong mangruli which is more on the hands on it tiam omngiti ko and I think ang most rangal so well maruto not only knowledge
I see.
Mal suko makat-improve ay kay del laboratories ra school en asab ilangal gal guk musubra classroom moral lab mang practice ay galo subo
ba sa de statra elementary at least ay gigid el curso sa nagel sel ko mo interest ngal ko mo waiser mo mo durming titugol minus mo ko
Maral to ko yelo ko ya Cecilia direk lo se ay kalo hands on and kal sabi edal di mongoy e poto tengay kal to ko Ngirmang maral kire tel mo malasa me marule e kawa direk lo sa mo elementary nga kangaring sister nga kal direk engineering ko construction kaya gidimlem ngal ka e mar ko yung marasyo, mangaral may mal torak, lermo, mamatamal, lven mo, mangara 16 argilet 12 dara sa PMA sign up mar Air Force. Adrabli ka atiril sign up abringil to. Saya ka maldiway akran pa. Kangal ka reveal 16 argim kawata ko kangar Air Force.
Soldaw.
Engyak malmle malum sarung ulle kay mongo ko ko manot kin bang lora Kalpoli Architectural School Ramrigel mang way kay gito ka do mesra nga leget sila nga elementary
halal dir nga Ramrigel elang engineer
hindi na kaluro malungil ko bali ang arang leget mal di nga elementary ngire do mes ay kay gitil nga ko sorry marul mal gire del support o lang sew gitar parents mal suaksel tigingem Cecilia waseng giretal involve ratialet ko na discipline ang Ngirmang Moses Uludong maral gira del support e wase ali telar clock mlamo gira del mo tennis gira del mo gira del makara o maklat kartir
Hindi ka madal ba isi mara ulubong al mekulingitra ka ndalisil ko ra mo ulubong osmaria ala dami te ko ka Cecilia.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank both of you for the opportunity to speak. It's always great to return home and able to share my story with everyone in the hopes that it helps maybe at least one person realize that, you know, it's a big world out there, but we can do it. You know, I feel that as a Palawan person, as a young person, as a person who is going to inherit this country along with my rest of my generation, there is a lot to learn from people like you who have been here many years, who have gone out, and actually it's one of probably my favorite sayings from a teacher who taught at PMA. He says when you're rowing a boat, you're going backwards, right? I mean you're going there, but you know you're going. Your head is down. How do you know where you're going if you don't look up and you look where you came from? You know, so that's something that I like, and I need to, you know, it's a good thing to remember to look back at Palau, where I came from, where I grew up. Even though I traveled so much, it's good that I look back and say, hey, when I'm done going forward, when I reach the peak of my career, how can I bring all of this, bring it home, and give it to the next generation to move forward, to move beyond what I was able to do at my capacity. And so I'd like to thank, you know, I had so many sponsors when I was younger. Palau Shipping, PNOC really helped me out. Surang helped me out. You know, in terms of financial, I wasn't able to go to these tournaments for free. So their donations to help, you know, find my tickets and things like that. And then, of course, my family, my grandma, my mom, my grandpa, who just believed that I could, because sometimes that's all that kids need. They just need to know in the back of their head, hey, someone believes in me. And like you said, you know, my father was here, but he wasn't in the picture really for me. And I understood that. And so I would pick someone, and it's perfect because my mom always had, you know, she surrounded herself with amazing people. And I was able to still have a male, like, person that I looked up to and said, okay, this is the kind of people that I want to be around.
Wow. Perfect. Malmasaw. Kabo
Okay, malmasaw lang alterong for the opportunity mateal. And then baldi tril to ko yaso kallo bal encourage ar adro ko yar mikikalal ad mangal kara school. Material ko tire kamle wainga kalko kumlanya koramle a wrong decision will make and modal nga school and mutual continue. Alako tingire del maldigire del omra Dios. Linga ulmen, then we are living every day and we're protected and we provided all the needs that we have. And then sa number 2 ako kumurtigagi del migral other school at time elementary high school mutigal digam le enroll college. Wasa sila ngal gara school and dakangol lurere da ko tingal gara school. So be the best that you can be. Do your best. Lenda ka mang sangar ka ungok timru la suble member ko. So do your best. Etigal guk mleway nga kal guk mlaringi ko ra problem guk mosto bel mutel continue.
ngara ko katilor.
Katilor. Mbigis. And then it's not too late. A school ading aringi so anytime kadi mo and then every day is a learning day. You learn something new. So it's not too late to go back and then continue the education journey.
Kabo diak bom smriti al program regite en koram mal ko man mot me aru tia nga mal la ungilar ko koltal atel in years tia program 6 years ngaringi mal ungilar ko kai ko mal dili meng ko ma dulia klaru ba me kulngitra kalma dil bol smriti ang lobang lungu
wais yaktira kalmal mrenga sulir terung emrenga sulir tirgen rogul ku kulme sergite orrenga sergite elang legal blam dunga mal maklo tutalel material gugomes to gubet sar makikarel atang irmang mal kire talo marartir. They need someone to believe in them. O marartir dire kalmal. El dia kalkiril give up. Mal diway lol ko Cecilia luaseng at ureng kamal motmor kamakarang di you come back, dust yourself and move. That's success. Kamal masaw mahalebo kung sim relopang lungu. Ruba kal Dios agi maral di mereng asule melkire la Ayana mas Cecilia matirkal ngaligel belaw la tua batarasku leman la ang maungil teng lang utial belu dire kal mal mokultu kulwase ara other bela malom sarandi rengaring atte alir ay garo kuil di senggal mlarkaw eruba kal Dios el merka mamarokuy magi maldi oreng asule melgirel olingi trak lang al tanga tarkaw malolomon malopentrir elopentrir tirge rokuy ilgukulames oreng sa togubet sar mekarel atel gor omda surarandil wasagi makarang aki morasku lalu bagi makarang mo makngal tanga tertir eta oreng arkaw lolomol maldi mingiti kay kertir makamamal rokuy ika ngation mam maudang asam obangel mo marengal saura ka mam ngarang klele Jesus Kristo lo sabalam. Amen.
Balwaisi. Badalwaisi ko manom saura te alkmed talsingang madanil tatake. Emargo akmal olingito sa ikel tukoy lukoy tirgal terul radil ma mal maklot tutel kupo o mes especially kemul to da school tirgi del ngal ngalige del ngara ay krel belaun mal betok ngia school blam ngai maurior blam ngai di segi del ko ngia Ayana wasem bom ngat mok murai kel kurbas bi ma experience ma agel te alma to ko bom do ngi indi blu termet al blu segi da mal kit gut makli tiang abluad al senger gidra aruba al ngilun miskid el gidel gut makli edrek lo otil mo la blul adma sera pacific lo se ngari ay gel to il kat magil el gida at belaw kil mok rulitel bluad man mo o baradis o malmsaun
Ma next week